so. Nicole, do you have anything to say about that? Or
Well, I believe, Terence, that you have been given a much wider experience in this, a much more vivid and probably valuable experience than most people. Why is that? Why do, for example, most of the Indians I know have, or perhaps just not able to explain it or to talk about it, but most of them say, well, they saw a tigre and some snakes, or they went to a beautiful city, and much simpler understanding.
I think it's language.
You think?
I think that
It very well could be.
That every single one of these Indians has seen things no human soul ever saw before. That it's a richness of beauty before which one is inarticulate. As to why I can do it, well, maybe necessity is the mother of invention. I'm not a stockbroker. And we can always blame the Irish. But I don't like to do that because that shuts everybody else out. And I don't believe for a moment, and in fact I might say that, to me the important thing about this experience is I really believe that everyone can have it. That this is something almost, it's no exaggeration to compare it to sexuality. This is a potentiality in the human organism that if you go to the grave without knowing about this, it's rather equivalent to going to the grave with your virginity intact. This is an enormous area of what it is to be alive. I mean, and it blows my mind to think that the last 50 generations of people in Europe created all that philosophy and science and diplomacy and so forth and so on without a single person being stoned for a single moment all those centuries. I mean, it's pretty much gristle and beer, isn't it, folks, when you look at the accomplishments of European civilization. So I think it takes practice, though, to access these states, and I'll respond.
That's another thing I was going to ask. Your initial experiences with anything like that?
My initial experiences were kind of funny. It always seemed to hit me very hard. I was thinking the other day of, for some reason, I hadn't thought of it for years. I think I was remarking the anniversary of it or something, about the very, very first time that I took LSD. And I took it in someone's apartment in San Francisco. And for me, the world divided into two great polar opposites. And perhaps it's still true in some strange way. One side of the thing was called the Iosteks, and they were like God. They were everything profound. I mean, to utter this word was to hurl yourself on the ground and press your face into the dirt. It was like invoking a Faustian flame, miles in extent. That was the Iosteks. At the other polarity were this something called the Pinkestairs. And they were hilarity and elfin dissolution into the minute. And I was just hurled between the antipodes of these two crazed, concrescent concepts for about 14 hours. And very peculiar. But by techniques, what I wanted to say was, because it will be useful, I assume, to people here, you do it in darkness and in silence and in reverence, on an empty stomach, free from distraction, with attention to breath. That's all. Now, what do we see? What does this operationally look like? It looks like a person sitting alone in a dark room, quietly breathing or meditating or something like that. That's all you see. That's the exterior manifestation of the sadhana. And what is going on is this person is navigating an internal river system of great complexity. Syntactical Niagaras are pouring over internal precipices of perception and remembrance. And, it's very intense. I mean, I have had experiences where I swore that everybody from Seattle to San Diego must have just thrown themselves under their desks to escape the blast, and it was just happening between my ears, I mean, it's like watching a thermonuclear explosion through 50 feet of absolutely clear crystal, and you're in violet, but what's raging in the optical pathway is like the collapse of a universe, or the birth of a universe.
The first time you took ayahuasca, was it that intense?
No, it took years of fiddling with ayahuasca because they don't make it right. I won't take anybody's but my own, just because they're not heavy enough on the foot pedal of the Psychotria. I think they want to.
That's it.
They want to graze the surface of it, and I want impact. So I really push that because that's what fascinates me, the visions. I mean, some people say you're just a vision freak, that these wonderful feelings and thoughts, and it's true that all is there, but there is something so convincing to my mind about a hallucination because it's so intricate and happening in real time, and you're just looking at this thing jaw agape. You could never draw it, you could never have previously imagined it, and yet it must in some sense be said to be yours because it's happening in your mind. And so then you wonder, well, what is my relationship to this thing? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Did I make it? Does it come out of me? Or is it no more me than me standing looking at the evening star? What is the source of this transcendent beauty that resides within the human nervous system? I confess I don't have the answer. I think that's I am basically a Platonist, and then when you couldn't support that anymore because of advances in modern philosophy, I retooled as a phenomenologist. But I'm still basically a Platonist, and I believe that the good, the true, and the beautiful are somehow facets of the same notion. And for me, the pursuit of beauty has been the fastest way to get entangled with the true and the good. Now, for somebody else, it might be different. But this beauty that we find resident within ourselves is, I think, the strongest argument that I personally know of that we are more than clay, that we are, caught up in a cosmic drama of salvation and redemption of some sort. I don't say what sort. I'm very leery of that. But that we are caught up in a cosmic drama of salvation and redemption, and the covenant that she has made with human beings is symbolized by the psychedelic experience, in the same way that God's covenant with man was symbolized for Noah by the rainbow. The psychedelic experience is the magical iridescence that is thrown off ordinary matter, vouchsafing some kind of insight into a transcendent level of organization that is behind appearances.